this is Steve Spencer from Freshagenda once more, doing a solo weekly take this time. Joanne is away on client business in a different city. So I'm just going to take you through some of the highlights from this week's GDT event, 318, which is pretty similar to the last one, and then a couple of charts of the week. So a simple effort trying to keep the time limited. I know Joanne not being here, she'll be quite interested to see if I can actually do that by myself. Let's cut into the result. A very negative result again, consistently across the board. The worst product group, skim milk powder, by some distance in percentage terms. But where's that come from in terms of the background? On the right-hand side, we've seen powder markets generally weaker. Europe profoundly weak recently. The US has continued to drift lower. European butter has also plunged in spot quotes recently, and we've also seen the cheddar market soften there in concert. The US, though, pretty steady in the cheese market, if anything, a little bit slightly firmer, and the butter market also going sideways at record levels, so not much change there. But across the board in this result, we saw demand being the biggest disappointment, particularly skim milk powder. Near record low demand for GDT events. That was echoed with whole milk powder being pretty similar to last time. Similar sorts of losses over there in terms of its dollar effect of the change. Fats also weaker. Generally, as we'll see in the results where the product was bought, we saw good involvement from Chinese buyers in the powders, just not enough of them turned up. So on the demand front, really low levels. As you can see, skim milk powder almost at the bottom of experience. When you look at what happened round to round, skim started low, didn't go very far, certainly a short event in terms of number of rounds. Whole milk powder, very similar to the last one, almost exactly identical in terms of that curve there. You can't see the orange line, you can see it trying to peek out there, but what's gone on there, it's pretty much similar, but it's gone on a little longer, so the result wasn't as bad last time. When we look at fats, a really unusual AMF profile there. Started weaker, stretched longer, and the price fall was actually less severe than what could have been the case. Butter did start out similar to last time, held on though, and for a milder outcome as well. Where the buying occurred, so I'm showing here the tons. I mean, the percentage involvement from Chinese buyers was a little down on last time. The tonnage also slightly lower. That was disappointing. When we look at skim milk powder, though, the buying volume has actually picked up, yet the demand quite low. There's simply, as this event rolled out, those that turned up took the product. We saw quite weak demand from other regions as well. So the overall volume of participating bidders and their interest is what let this down in both powders. Just another couple of highlights. The profoundly weaker buying from Southeast Asia on skim milk powder. The Middle East sticking around at higher levels compared to their history for whole milk powder. Futures systematically get this wrong, it seems now, and the overestimation on skim milk powder got a lot worse. It was the biggest gap we've seen there since going back to March, when we saw another similar sort of situation. Whole milk powder not as big an over hope as we saw last time, but still quite significant in relative to past experience. Here we have some of the other interesting comparisons out of this week's result. In terms of cheddar, as in the US market, start to pick up a bit in recent terms. These are NDPSR prices from the USDA. While they have improved as the market's just tightening a little with lower output, and certainly a tightening of availability of barrels, the GDT market is weaker. On the right-hand side, there's been another flip back in skim milk powder medium heat prices, this time the loss to Arla's product was a little lower than what Fonterra suffered, and that's flipped that to an advantage for the European product. Non-GDT news, we had a slew of other data this week. I've sifted through that and come up with this little menage of charts to talk about what's going on in the use of EU milk, which was down a little bit in August. We don't think that's going to continue now. We're seeing more year-on-year improvements, particularly Germany and France. Ireland also back into positive production. So that might tilt the number up, and we expect that to continue because last year's numbers are quite poor around this time. But in terms of product mix, the most interesting, as you can see there, fluid milk use is down slightly. But the fact that the cheese market's kept in balance by no change in production, there've been very small changes in recent times. Seeing a little bit more skim milk powder and butter output in August. What we also hear at the moment is that milk solids have picked up again in September, October. Look forward to seeing that data when it turns up. So this is probably helping with the slowing in product values. Anyway, that's all for me. I hope it's been useful. I'll be back sometime soon.